have some concerns. Yeah, how it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have concerns too.
I have none like worry in the world.
Welcome back to another episode of
Jason and Mark.
the Stokes YouTube channel vlog.
Yeah.
Is this a vlog?
Vlog.
Careful.
Vlog.
Okay. Mark Lauber, General Manager, Stokes Trucking, joined again today by
Jason Douglas, Director of Retention and Recruiting.
there you go, from Stokes Trucking. And we're going to answer questions.
Yeah, so I thought this would be pretty informative. One, to talk about a safety meeting coming up, because we have a special guest coming in, and it's important that we work together with our guests. Instead of being the enemy, they are our friend. And I hope some of our drivers come up with some good questions. We want to get this out so you can think of some the hardest questions you can think of, because our guest is a very knowledgeable and very good at what he does. So probably answers all of our questions when we get in a pickle.
So our special guest at our safety meeting that's happening on February 3rd
Yes.
of 2024 is going to be Justin Cloward, who is a Utah Highway Patrolman. He works in the motor carrier division. I will get it wrong if I try and guess what his title or rank is.
Yeah, I probably would too, but he's very knowledgeable, everything DOT and FMCSA.
Yeah. He's, when we've had a couple of bad accidents, he's been the one who's contacted us.
Mhm.
So he's
done Utah
higher up in
Trucking
Utah
Association.
Motor Carriers for Utah Highway Patrol.
Yeah, and he's done some stuff with the Utah Trucking Association where he's talked or spoke. That's where I've seen him. But that being said, we want to make sure you guys come up with some questions. If you have hours of service questions, personal conveyance, when you are stopped at a shipper, what should you be logging on duty, off duty? You know, I've heard some questions from some drivers, if they're loading that they've interpreted that they shouldn't be in the sleeper berth. And so those are great questions. You know, because it can be interpreted. They leave it up to interpretation, so it's hard. They can write you a ticket for it if you're wrong, but they leave it up for interpretation.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can get some clarity. So we hope to have a good turnout and have people show up. What do you think are some good questions drivers would have? Or we should ask?
I can tell you right now, personal conveyance is a mess.
Yeah.
So he won't, and no one will get into the weeds on personal conveyance. It's really up to the inspector on the roadside, you know, if he thinks it was a legitimate use of personal conveyance. So I'm going to say for our drivers, I'd probably not ask that question, because you're not going to get a satisfied answer, and we can go round and round about it for 45 minutes and not really get anywhere.
Which tells you how big of a mess it is.
It is a mess, and they left it gray for a reason. It's so that it's to give inspectors latitude roadside. It really is.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get a lot of clarification on personal conveyance. I can promise you that.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that it's also for drivers to make the best decision. And when they make the best decision, they can defend it. And if a driver can defend their decision, they're usually going to get, you know, not off the hook, but agreed with.
Yeah, absolutely. My advice is, if you want, especially on particular instances of personal conveyance, I would ask Mark Adams those.
Okay.
Or
because that's more of a company policy.
Ty Walker. It really is. It's not really just in examples. And I can tell you in the end, because I've done this with him, he's going to say, don't use it unless you absolutely have to. That's the end of the story. It should really be avoided if possible.
In every safety meeting that I've been to, it's like everybody's quiet till those questions come out, and then he's like,
Yeah, and I want to be careful. I hope that's not the first question from the group.
Yeah, and I think some of those other questions, like such as on duty and the half-hour break, where we're getting at, how have things changed with the 7-3 split?
Hmm.
Um, how is he seeing people use it effectively? What are things that they can do to help prevent them when they're being inspected?
Hmm.
Things like that. What he's looking for, what are red signs? I know when I was for driver appreciation, when I was out here at the port, she told me a messy dash gets them pulled in
Yeah,
every time.
I'm reasonably confident his presentation is going to be about things that are going to get you pulled in for a inspection,
Mm,
level 1, 3, right? Um, that's what he's going to go over, and he's dead on. I didn't through my trucking career, I have not had a lot of level 3 inspection. Level threes, see, I don't even.
it's opposite. Threes,
It, is it one? Is it one everything?
yes.
2 is like just equipment, right?
And then
And
the
nothing else.
three is everything.
3 is everything. I've had very few, whichever it is. See,
It's
I'm
either three
shooting
or
from the
one or
hip
one
here,
or
folks.
three.
I can't
I think
remember.
it's opposite. One is
This is a good
everything. It
question.
is, but one is the lowest one. Three is
3 is
everything.
the highest.
Yeah.
I had very few level 3s, and it's because most of the things that Justin is going to point out in his presentation, I made sure looked perfect.
Clean.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we definitely look forward to having him coming. It's going to be very informative for
Ooh,
everybody. We hope to have you make it.
Coca-Cola, you should sponsor
Yeah.
us.
Coca-Cola. Yeah, we're getting big time. No shout outs for free. That's your only shout out. You get one Coca-Cola. Next, that's it. And then I wanted to just take a quick second and we're in 2024. Our fuel contest is underway. Um, we don't have all of the information put together to give updates. But as drivers have been coming in, we've been getting questions. I know we're helping people get a little more efficient. People are taking it a little serious, which is good. Um, Fuel efficiency ultimately means more money, which ultimately means we can pay more.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one area where we kind of lack and that we can improve on.
Have you had a lot of questions from the drivers about how to improve, how to
I
get better?
I have, and through talking to Troy and you and other people that have driven that have that experience, one misconception by multiple drivers is they would have cruise control on, but they would still have their foot on the pedal, which
Really?
yes,
Okay. Yeah, that kind of defeats the
it defeats
purpose.
the purpose. But they're used to not where to put their foot, so they're putting too much pressure on it. I've had a couple people ask
Really?
that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's okay.
They're like, I cruise control all the time. And I'm like, do you? Like, let's pull it up. And it was less than 5%.
Oh wow.
And come to find out, they were resting their
Mm,
foot on the pedal.
mm.
So the more you know,
More
sometimes you
you
don't
know.
know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to help with. That's a big question. And another one is people are confused sometimes between what the bunk heater is supposed to do and what the APU is supposed to do,
Oh, okay.
which is they don't know how to fire up their bunk heater and they think the APU is supposed to heat everything
Mm,
instead of the APU being the battery charger and
mm,
using the bunk heater.
mm. Hmm. That's a training issue. We
It
need to
is.
do a
And
better job of training our drivers when they're new.
yeah, and when they're new, and even, if you have questions, any one of us in the office will come out and show you. Dusty, as you pull through the shop, Troy's gone out to numerous people to show them how to fire up their bunk heater issues. The last thing we want, really, there's idle shouldn't be an issue or an
Mm,
option because we have two steps in front of that.
yeah. 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 So what Jason's talking about, we have diesel fired bunk heaters. Some people call them Webastos. It's horrible of me. I do the specs on the truck and I can't remember exactly
I've never heard of
which
that term.
manufacturer makes our bunk heater. But they're just diesel fired, ran by electric. They draw off the battery power. And the way it should work in the wintertime is you run the bunk heater The APU will kick on to charge the batteries if it needs.
Mm-hmm.
And it can get pretty cold. I've slept with it below zero, for a 10-hour break with just the bunk heater running, the APU kicking on to charge the batteries. And not really had a concern. That was one of the talks last week was, about treating fuel. Do you need to idle your
Right.
truck? Today, you don't really need to idle the truck hardly ever. If it's going to be double digits below zero and you're going to be stopped for more than 10 hours, I might have a different answer. But just for your 10-hour break, you're probably fine to just run the bunk heater, let the APU do its thing to charge the batteries. But if the bunk heater isn't working, which happens,
Sure.
the APU has a heat function too. And so you can turn on the APU if your bunk heater's faulty and use that for heat. And if both of them happen to be down, we also have OptiIdle on our trucks as well.
So then that's like the third option.
That's the third option.
Yeah.
That's the fail safe, right? That's going to turn on the big motor and idle the truck. And now we're burning a lot of fuel. The diesel fired bunk heater, that burns about 1/10 of a gallon an hour. So for an entire night, it's going to burn 1 gallon of fuel
for a 10-hour break.
Yeah.
Yep.
The APU burns somewhere between a quarter of a gallon, 0.25, and 0.35 gallons per hour. The big engine, burns at least 1.5 gallons per hour.
Oh yeah, big difference.
Big difference. And it's hard on the emission systems, and there's all kinds of reasons we don't want to idle the big engine if we can avoid it.
Leave it running.
Yeah. So it's always bunk heater, APU, OptiIdle. Those are the 3 steps we should follow.
So if any of you have any questions on that, bunk heater, APU, OptiIdle, come let us know, because the last thing we want you to do is freeze. And if it's cold and you have issues with any of those things, we will always get you a room or whatever it is. Call us.
Yeah.
I've had people before say I didn't want to bother anybody, and they slept with 2 sleeping bags because they couldn't get something to work. And this was in a past life. But I'm like, we don't want you to freeze.
Yeah.
So I can't say that enough, that if something's not working, we'll get it fixed. And if you need education, we'll get you educated on any of those things.
All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up.
All right.
We'll try and be back next week with another episode of Junkie and the Leprechaun.
I'm going to shave my beard. Then what we have? I'll still be a
Careful.
Okay. Yeah. I can hide all my insecurities in my beard.
I just eat my feelings. It's okay. All right. We'll see y'all next week.